Then we'll end up talking about some next steps. I'll give you kind of what the timeline looks like for us, and then where we are going to be very specifically looking for some additional input from you in the February timeframe. So just give you kind of a heads up on that, and we'll talk about what that looks like. So those are the plans I have for today. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. So let me give you the exciting news that we're at right now. We have, as I said, we're a little bit beyond the halfway point. We currently have just under 240,000 surveys that have been submitted through SpeakUp. And when I looked about 10 minutes ago, we were very close to getting to 200,000 student surveys. We've taken in about 1,900 teacher surveys, a little bit over 2,000 administrators, about 16,000 parents, and 2,700 community members. We are running very significantly higher than we ever have before on the student surveys. This is the first time ever in 12 years that we will have gotten to 200,000 surveys before Thanksgiving. Really amazing. So we're running almost 50% ahead of where last year's numbers were on students for this year, so that's very exciting. We're also ahead on all the other surveys, somewhere between 10 and 15% ahead. We've got a couple significant developments that we think are driving some of this participation. Again, this year we have several states that are very actively promoting SpeakUp. And we're seeing that type of a state Department of Education or an ISTE affiliate in the state or some other organization in the state, and there's all different configurations of this, pushing out for SpeakUp participation is definitely driving some numbers. So for the first time ever, another first here, for the first time ever, Indiana is actually our #1 state in the country right now in terms of number of surveys submitted, which, Lori, does not make any sense to me because you know that Texas has been in that #1 position for all previous 11 years.
Yes, we're very unhappy.
Yes, so we think that, and California's been right there too, and so California and Texas right now, it's all very close amongst those top three. We're counting on Texas to probably pull it out here in the next couple of weeks, but it is interesting to see Indiana in that first position. In the fourth position is North Carolina, and that's very interesting and very strategic because the state of North Carolina is going through a statewide strategic planning effort around digital learning that is being led by our good friends at the Friday Institute. And so they are actually very actively promoting that out as well. Number 5 in terms of number of surveys is Florida, and then Virginia, Alabama, and Maryland as well. And so that is just based on pure numbers of surveys. We also, as I think you guys know by now, we're total data geeks. The analytics that we're looking at all the time are truly amazing. We also look at percentage of student pop and year-over-year trends, all of that type of things. The states that we see that are trending higher than they ever have before are Georgia, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, and South Dakota. Again, there are specific efforts within those states. In many of the same reasons as the other states, that the state organizers or state agencies are interested in the data themselves, and so they're hoping to promote it. When we look at the top 5 school districts, no big surprise here, we see the top school district is a school district in Indiana, then followed by 2 in Texas. Lori, it's Klein, obviously, and then Weslaco. And then it's 2 school districts that are in North Carolina, reflecting North Carolina's position as well. So very interesting in terms of the way that's all trending out in terms of the numbers. We've been doing a lot more social media this year than we ever have before, really as an experiment more than anything else, so we think that that may be driving it. We also, and we had talked about this at the last call and then also at the meeting in ISTE, we put all of the surveys on a diet this year, and so we did a lot of streamlining of questions, we did a lot of reformatting of the surveys, looking at numbers of responses, all those type of things. And so we also think that that's helping in terms of greater participation. We do have some ads that are running right now on eSchool News. I don't know if anyone has seen those. That's interesting. we're tracking also the analytics associated with that to see if that's driving participation. We have about 15 states, plus the District of Columbia, that are currently on our watch list. Now, by that I mean that they have participation, so we already have participation from all 50 states. We just are watching them because either they've had higher participation in the past or we had expected higher participation. So we'd be very interested if you have any thoughts or ideas in terms of additional outreach type things we could do, out-of-the-box thinking. Not only to continue to get the word out to schools and districts in the states where we are having some large participation, but also in some of these states where it just doesn't seem like we've had the same stickiness or we've had the same impact with them. So I'm just going to quickly, and I can send, Jenny will send all this out to you again, the notes, so don't worry about having to write down. I'm just going to take you through what those 15 states are. And if any of them, if any of them jumps up at you, or if you're going to be visiting any of them over Thanksgiving weekend, maybe, let me know. It's Alaska, Arkansas, Colorado, Hawaii, Iowa, Indiana, Louisiana, Maine, Minnesota, Montana, North Dakota, Nebraska, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Now, I know some of these states are small states in terms of student population. We usually take that into account, but others are not, and so we're somewhat stymied by whether or not they're getting the word out, if schools and districts know about it. Maybe they're holding off participation till December. We usually get about 50% of our participation in December anyway, so it may be that they have plans in place, but we just haven't heard from them. But, I mean, I'm open if anyone has any ideas in terms of doing some additional outreach, either specifically to these states or things that you think maybe we should be doing in general.
Julie, did you say Washington, D.C., or was that not part of the list?
Yeah, it was the 15 states, Michael, plus Washington, D.C.
Julie, this is Michael Horn. One thought particularly for DC, but for all of those. Have you all worked with the local foundations in each of those places that are active in the education community and with technology specifically?
Oh, that's really interesting, Michael. No, I don't think we have. Now, Jenny Hossard, who is our ops manager, is obviously the queen of all of our outreach. But I don't have specific recollection about doing outreach to foundations that are supporting digital learning or education technology in those local areas. That's a really interesting idea.
I might like City Bridge Foundation specifically for DC, but I'm happy to go through a few others if useful.
And who is that, Michael, in DC?
City Bridge Foundation.
City Bridge, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So why don't I, rather than take the time here, why don't we follow up outside of this in terms of what some of these other foundations would be that you may have contacts with?
Great.
That would be great.
Hey, Julie?
Yes.
Can I chime in with the D.C.?
Yeah, sure.
This is Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn.
I just came back from D.C. and had the privilege of being able to speak to all the D.C. just hired teacher librarians for every single one of their schools. That's a brand new development. And I had the opportunity to address all of them. And I think they're ready to implement Speak Up in all their schools.
Okay.
So all you need to do is just contact the director of library services to say, look, we need to implement this as soon as people get back from Thanksgiving break. And I think we can see it at every single, at least at the school sites, for sure.
And can you give us, Glenn, an introduction to that library services person?
Absolutely, yeah. Jennifer Padre, and she's in charge of all library services. This was actually surfaced to all of them when we were there, because I brought it up to them. So we actually have a person on at each site that could be an advocate right there on the school campus.
Yeah, those are two great ideas, the foundations and then also going through the librarian media specialists. Those are great ideas.
Hey, Julie, this is me. just another idea, reaching out to existing teacher communities that may be able to push this out for you. I'm thinking of like Discovery Educators.
Mm-hmm.
I can post something in the Google Certified Teacher and the Apple Distinguished Educator list too. But also, you might want to specifically reach out to somebody at Google. I'm trying to think what her name is, but they're starting these Google Educator groups, and they're international and within the United States, and there's a group for each state for the most part.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I just posted one in Chicago yesterday about this in the Chicagoland one, but I can get you the name of the main person, and maybe she can help you out. The other thing too, speaking of not making the state, the MLTI group there, which runs all of their ed tech initiatives, might be a good place to start. And the main center, I think it's called the Main Center for International Center for something. I'm blanking on it right now. They have a lot to do with ed tech in the state as well. The MLTI director stepped down and now works for Common Sense Media.
Mm-hmm.
So that position is open right now, but there are other people in the state, I'm sure, that would be willing to push that out. And I can give you a contact name, too, if you want to follow up after this.
Yeah, I think that's why we're seeing lower numbers in Maine, because Jeff isn't there and that position's open.
I've heard that there's a certain person going into that position. I don't know if it's public knowledge or not, so I don't want to say, but I can give you that guy's name and email.
Okay. That sounds great, Lucy. Thank you.
I have a question is whether or not you have lots of, wonderful corporate sponsors, and I wonder if any of them would be willing to use their email addresses and whatnot and their marketing arm to get the word out through the commercial world. Maybe you've already done that.
Yes, many of them do that, and whether it is, directly using their customer or client names and promoting that out, or some of them have been more active than others in the social media space for us. So we've got varying degrees of that, but that's a good point, Mary Beth. Thank you. I'm actually doing one-on-one calls with all of our sponsors also today and tomorrow, going through these same sort of issues. So good point.
Maybe they could even put links on their site, on the front page of their site for a couple of weeks or something like that.
Yeah, good point. Good idea. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, it never hurts. All they can say is no, but that's
right. That's right. Anybody have any other ideas or thoughts?
This is Tom Greaves. So I talked to a number of schools the other day in San Diego County, and they weren't really aware of what the benefits to them were of working with Speak Up. I don't think they were aware of the special district reports you get back. And I'm thinking that if you could figure out what's in it for them, and I think there are a lot of things in it for them in terms of being able to inform their planning processes. And in California, everybody's got to do LCAP reports and so forth, but then it's similar things in other states. If you could have what's in it for them, and then maybe go through the state superintendents associations. It could be another angle that you haven't explored so far.
Yeah. That story of what's in it for them is really interesting. Of course, we feel like we say that, but we obviously are not saying it in the right way. So we
probably different audiences. I'm happy to talk to you offline if you want to. I'll take up the whole meeting on it.
Yeah, that sounds great, Tom. Thank you so much. One of the things that we're working on right now, I'm hoping to have this ready for next week, is, and I think some of you have participated in this, is that we have a good friend of ours. She's now an education technology consultant, but she was sort of driving this effort within one of the participating school districts, is doing some interviews for us with some folks to gain their perspective on how they've used the Speak Up data to inform different plans, so that it isn't just so we'll have something that's not just conceptual, but it'll actually have some, I guess, some reality behind it to explain what that actually looks like and means. So we're hoping to have that piece ready for at least some dissemination next week as well. You know, I feel like we continually, we're still learning about this messaging, and I think we're, you know, that's sort of a collective thing. You know, what is the best messaging and what is the messaging that resonates? But you're absolutely right, Tom. You know, we've got diverse sets of different types of audiences, so it can't be just one message. It has to be very differentiated messaging.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, good ideas. Anything come up with anybody else, you can let us know. These are all great ideas and things that we hadn't thought of, so that's why I'm thrilled to have this time to chat about all this. But, I mean, again, Jenny will send these out with the notes, and so if you take a look at it or if you know of someone, or it may just be that they're all going to participate in the next 3 weeks in December, and but, of course, you know, we want to make sure that everybody that is interested or could benefit from it has the access to the information. The other thing go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry. This is only available to U.S. teachers, right? It's not available internationally yet, correct?
We actually make it available, Lucy, to anybody that wants to use the surveys. So the surveys are in English, with the exception of the parent survey is also in Spanish. So we do have participation all around the world as well, quite often from international schools, but then we've also had other schools that have had their students take it in English. So we do make it available. We don't limit it just to the U.S. We make it available to anybody that wants to use them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Were you thinking about something in particular, Lucy?
Well, these Google Educator groups are international.
Okay.
And then, you know, Steve Hargadon and I run, you know, we just finished our Global Ed conference, and we have 21,000 people in that community. It's very U.S.-centric, but there's still people from around the world. And then, you know, so anyway, I was just curious if we can help that way, too.
Yeah, that's great. The other thing I wanted to bring up to folks, and maybe you've already found your way there, or maybe you've seen it in some of our updates, we do have a nice-looking interactive map now that's on our website. Very easy to find. It's just tomorrow.org/speakup/ and then it's the hashtag symbol. And you can see there on the map which states are our high performers in terms of participation and which ones are kind of like in the middle and which ones still need some attention. So please feel free to use that or also to share that with folks. I've had a couple people that have told me, you know, I'm not saying it's necessarily the best marketing effort in the world, but that they are using that map to make sure that folks within their state realize that they are not, how shall we say, performing up to par compared to other states where they may have a competitive thing going on with. So, I mean, it's sort of an interesting way to sort of see the landscape of all of that. We do have, for many of the states, we've created for the states their own landing page for Speak Up, and so in some cases they have populated that with some of their information. You know, Lori, we have that for Texas, obviously. And then also when I've done special presentations, I've done special presentations for many states from a promotional standpoint, that's recorded there and that's available. So there's lots of different state-specific information that we're promoting out as well. But if you ever want to take sort of a quick sneak peek at either what the numbers are or what the state-by-state participation is, you can go to that map. We're kind of proud of it. We like it. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is our plans for Speak Up America, which is going to be the week of December 8th. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on this. I think some of you are aware of it, some of you may not be aware of it. So last year, or increasingly over the last couple of years, we've been approached by some school districts who said it would really be nice if we could help them with promotion by showing that the national organization, Project Tomorrow, was focusing or doing some special things on a special day or in a special week around Speak Up. It could help them with their own internal promotion. We also realized that for many of the school districts, they have started institutionalizing the process of doing the Speak Up surveys on one particular day or during one particular week. We thought that was sort of an interesting development. So we make the surveys, available from the beginning of October to the middle of December, but we do have a number of school districts that pick a particular day, and they use that day as their Speak Up day, and they do all kinds of promotion around it and have folks take the surveys. We had a particular school district last year that had 25,000 surveys submitted in one day as part of their special promotion day. So last year we tried a pilot with this where we, to be responsive to the school districts in terms of what their desires were, picked this week in December and called it Speak Up America and had some different promotions during that week and a number of different activities to kind of help support the outreach efforts at the schools and districts. So it was so successful last year, we thought it was successful, and it met the needs of the districts, that we decided to do it again this year. So we're doing it the week of December 8th. And what I'm going to do is just take you through a little bit of some of the plans that we have, but we are still open to adding new things in and to doing some other things that could be interesting from a promotional standpoint. So a couple things that we're going to do is we're going to be sharing out every day during that week some of the preliminary data, and we're going to do it in a very quick and easy infographic format. So one day will be students, one day will be parents, another day will be teachers, that type of thing during the week. So we'll do a special little one each day during that week. So it's not just about collecting the data, but actually starting to share some out. We're also going to be highlighting the top 5 districts, the top 5 states, that type of stuff. And then last year we did a nice little photo challenge, photo contest that we're going to do again this year. It's very teacher and classroom based. If a teacher in classroom participate and Speak Up that day, they can send us a photo, either that's something that represents the class participating in the Speak Up surveys or some way that they promoted participation within their class. And then we're going to have some online voting, and we have a small pot of grants that we're going to be giving out to some winning schools during that week. We're extending that this year to also include a little bit of a video contest, and the wording is still to be defined here, but something around the idea of asking classes to respond in a video with why is the use of digital tools and resources important for your future, and have the students and the teachers submit something like that. Again, we have a small pot of money to give some grants out to the participating classrooms or schools for their participation. In addition to that, we have a number of our partners that have provided us with some donations of, at this point, conference registrations to be able to also award those during the week, and that'll just be random selections based on schools and districts that participate and Speak Up during that week. So our friends at ISTE have given us 2 conference registrations. Lori and her fabulous team have given us a conference registration for TCEA. Q California has given us 2 registrations to use. Jonathan, I think on a call I was on this morning with Allison, she gave us one for iNACOL for next year. Yeah. And so those actually have been really popular, and people have been really incentivized by that. We did a fun thing last year at ISTE. In addition to having 2 districts that were selected to get the free registrations, we also did a dinner at ISTE with the winners. And so that was a nice additional thing. So I got to have dinner with the district leaders from those particular districts. So that was kind of fun. So we're looking at a couple different things like that that are somewhat interesting. Again, it's really any district, any school or district that has surveys that are submitted that week are eligible. So it's a random type thing. Obviously, for TCEA and for Q, those will be state specific. So we'll be awarding within those particular states. And I think there's a couple other ISTE affiliates that are looking at it as well. In addition to that, we're going to be doing a lot of social media work during that week in terms of promotion. And early on in the Speak Up process this year, we did an experiment where we did a couple Twitter chats, and those were nicely done. They were successful. I moderated those. And so we're going to do a series of some Twitter chats that week as well to be able to to address some different topics and maybe get people somewhat excited about participating and looking at the data. In this particular case, during that week, we're going to be looking at specific types of data and what does that mean. So that's kind of nice. Those are sort of the things that we're planning on for right now. What we have found is that, I think I mentioned this before, almost 50% of the surveys come in December. And so, as I said, we already have heard from many districts that they have picked 1 day or 2 days to be able to sort of focus in from a participation standpoint. I think that's really interesting, and so, as I said, Speak Up America is really set up to sort of support those sort of efforts. But we are still at this point open to the idea that there may be other things that we should do or could do, or maybe some ideas that we haven't thought of, and I would love to see if there's some things, you know, kind of what do you think about this Speak Up America concept, and how do you think we could either do it or do it better or get you involved?
Did you say December 8th that week?
Yeah, it's the week of December 8th through the 12th.
Yeah, that particular week is also the National Hour of Code Week. I'm wondering if there might be a connection between the two.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I did.
Because that's really gaining a lot of momentum, and my thought was, you know, not only could the kids in every grade level have this opportunity to participate in the Hour of Code, but also we could also at the same time get their family, their teachers, etc., all the stuff that Speak Up does, kind of get that attitude report back during that time.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of quinky-dinky. We had, I guess either we missed it or we didn't know when they announced it. It just happened to end up being the same week, which is somewhat interesting. It would have been nicer if it had been strategic, but it's still good, particularly because we're asking some new questions this year about students' interest in learning how to code. We're asking parents about the value of that. We're asking principals about the value of that. And we're asking about the types of experiences that kids are having doing that. So outside of the fact that they're both in the same week and it is interesting to cross-promote, there's also going to be some really valuable data that we're going to be collecting that I think will be of value to them as well. So I did some outreach to them at the end of last week, Friday, I guess, because I was not familiar with them. I don't know if anyone here on the call knows the folks over there or have had any interactions with them.
I do. I have a former colleague that just started working for them.
Oh, okay.
At Blue Stage, yeah. So I can connect you to him.
Okay, that'd be great.
So Julie, I love the Speak Up Day. This is Barbara. Can people sign up that they're going to do it that way? Like I'm looking at it on the website, but maybe their school or district can show up on a map that they've signed up
Oh.
what their Speak Up Day is, or that they're doing it that day, so that there's some, once you've taken that action, then you're more committed to doing it, and they're going to get to be seen on the web and stuff like that.
That's a very cool idea, Barbara. Huh.
Just set up like a Google form or something. That'd be pretty easy to track.
Yeah, very easy. Very easy to track. It sort of takes me back. Some of us are going to know this reference and some are not. It sort of takes me back to the, remember our predecessor organization was NetDay, and folks used to sign up to do school wiring days on a map like that. It's sort of a page from the past. Good idea, Barbara. Thank you. And for the folks that are on, that's Barbara Tracy. Other thoughts? Anybody in particular want to be involved in this in some different ways? Can you think of some different ways?
Is there an outreach to various media, and could we be involved that way, an interview with Education Week or...
That's a great idea, Tom. Yeah, we didn't do any of that last year. We did it more grassroots, but that is an interesting idea to put together a more strategic plan with that and then think about how we could leverage some of our wonderful advisory council members to help spread that word as well. That's a great idea.
And a lot of these groups have, most of the groups have internal
Yep.
It's always, there's people on this call that are famous, and other people will listen to them.
I like the idea of having speak-up celebrities.
Julie, this is Kari, and Jared Stearns is now at Smart Brief, and he, obviously has the history and understands what this is all about, so maybe you could contact him to see if they could do something special about getting people signed up, during that week.
That's great. Thank you, Kari. That's fabulous.
Julie, this is Ben. I know we talked before about the content-specific group, but I was just in Arizona talking with science teachers, and they're trying to make the case for their use of technology and how their students are working. I think that's another avenue that you can look at to perhaps put messages out, like the National Science Teachers give out a weekly newsletter.
Okay.
And, now, that may not reach the district leaders, but it may start with more of a grassroots type of piece.
Yep, that's a great idea.
Every type of teacher belongs to one of those associations, IRA, MCTM, etc.
Yeah, we did preliminary outreach with them, but I don't think we've done our Speak Up America work with them yet. So that's a great idea. Well, if you come up with other ideas for me, folks, we're always open. And I hope you'll plan your calendar as well. One of the other things that we are talking to a lot of people about, and I'm not quite sure how to necessarily message this out as well, is that, right now, if anyone is interested in education, there is a Speak Up survey for you. Because with our community member survey, that's the general one that if someone is a school board member, if they are a staff person at a school but not credentialed, not a teacher or administrator, if they're not a student, if they're a parent of little children and their child isn't in the local schools yet, or their children have already graduated, or they're a civic leader, or just even a homeowner, you can take that community member survey. And it's been really interesting to see how some local media have picked that up around the country. And so we're seeing pockets of community members participating in Speak Up where maybe even their local school isn't participating in Speak Up, which is kind of interesting. But there is an opportunity now through that survey for anyone who cares about education, cares about the future of learning, cares about our schools, to have a voice. And so we're still playing with how to message that out as well.
So one thing about, this is Barbara again, and by the way, I'm happy to help in any way, just tell me what to do. So the community survey, you still have to select a school in the community, if I'm looking at it right, and I'm wondering if that is a disincentive or a confusion, if somebody feels like they're just a supporter of the schools where they live, or they're a school board member. It seems to be asking you to pick one of the schools, to associate yourself with one of the schools, but I might be missing.
I think there's another, and I don't have it open right now, otherwise I could show you, Barbara, but there's another place where it says if you want to skip that, then you just go in as a general member.
Okay, I'm going to look for that. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the part we've been promoting out to folks. So that both has the opportunity, because if you pick a school, then that means that that school district or that school will receive that part of the data from the community member. They won't know who said it or sent it or who participated, but they'll know if it's a school board member or if it's a homeowner, that type of thing. But there's another path into that that's just general.
I found it.
Good.
Found it.
Good. Okay, good.
Thanks. Yep.
Yep. Just want to make sure about that. Okay, well, as I said, if you think of something else, folks, or think of another idea or another type of group that we should do some outreach to about it, we'll be happy to do that. Otherwise, plan on seeing us all over the board in terms of promoting out Speak Up America. We're kind of excited about it. The next thing, and then this is sort of my final thing, and I'm sure that this is more of a sort of an advance warning more than anything else, just in terms of what our next steps are. The surveys are open until December 19th. We will close the surveys down on the end of the day, December 19th. That'll be the end of the day, sort of Hawaii time, Alaska time. And then what we do is we go a little bit dark in terms of internally looking at the data, in terms of cleaning the data, getting the data ready, and then on February 5th is when we will release back out to the participating schools and districts their own local reports. Now, remember, that is all password protected, so that there is a particular contact within the school district who is our Speak Up contact. They're the ones that get access to those reports. Those are online reports. If they choose to make those available to other people, that's their business. Some districts do, some districts don't. Some districts will go through and do kind of a synopsis and then share it out with their community. It's really up to them. That report will include the national data, and if the particular district also wants their state-level data for comparison, we can give them that as well. And we also will share that in February with our key partnering organizations, and our plan is also to share that data with all of you. We have a couple reasons why we want to do that. One, we want to make sure that as you're going forward with your planning and your thoughts, you have access to that data, as well as we want to be able to tap into your thoughts, your insights, your wisdom about the best way to share that data at the national level. You know, since we started Speak Up, we've created a series of national reports each year that we share, and we've been sharing those in congressional briefings. But I kind of want to reinvent the wheel maybe a little bit and have some conversations about the best way to get that data out. I am very cognizant, increasingly cognizant of the fact that there are different ways to disseminate information to impact change, and want to look at what would be the most effective way to be able to share the data. It is critically important for us that we get that data into the hands of folks that can use it. And so I know that there must be different ways for us to do that outside of the more traditional creating a report, doing a congressional briefing, doing some national conferences, doing some webinars. There may be some different ways of doing that. And so part of my plan in terms of giving you access to that national data is for you to help us think through what's the best way to parse that data and to get it out to impact what people are thinking about and planning. So we would then, our plan is to get that national data to you in the February timeframe, and then we would have a subsequent call to talk about what that data looks like and what would be some best ways to disseminate it. Now, I know for the folks that are on the call that are from school districts, you've gotten the national data before because it's come as part of your own locally set data. We'll actually be giving you a different slice or a different view of the national data. We do our sort of data sets two different ways. One, we do them thematically by question category, and then the second way is by audience. So what you'll be getting from us in February is just a real basic Excel workbook that has different tabs for different audiences. So you can click on the tab and look at what teachers had to say. It'll have every question and what the responses were and what percentage of teachers chose those different responses. And so each one of the tabs will correspond to the 11 different surveys. In addition to that, we do this thematic workbook. I actually find the thematic one to be the most beneficial, and that's where we have questions put into categories. So there's a tab for mobile learning. There's a tab for online and blended learning. There's a tab for social media. There's a tab for professional development. And the questions are then whether or not they are just from one particular audience or from multiple audiences. They're aggregated into those particular tabs. So our plan right now is to send you both sets of those. You can use them whichever way you'd like. In addition to that, if you would also like, the third way that we look at the data internally here is longitudinally. And so we have quite a comprehensive workbook that the team puts together. Again, it's for easy viewing, so that's why it's in a workbook format, that is longitudinal. So where we have questions that are on this year's survey that have been asked in the past, you then can see for each audience, for each type of audience, each type of question, how those responses have changed over time. That one I also think is very interesting. And if you are interested in that, we can also send you that one as well. So my plan is, I hope I didn't overwhelm you with that, is that we are going to share with you as part of the Advisory Council, as a thank you to you for being so kind and generous with your time and insights, all of the national data, and then be able to engage you in a conversation about how you think is the best way for us to disseminate some portions thereof. Does that sound okay to everybody?
That's great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Julie, sorry, and as you know, we'll parse out, I still have a small contract with the Flip Learning Network, and we'll parse it out for the third year, so we are really looking forward to getting our hands on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so does that idea of looking at the data and then helping us think about ways to disseminate it, does that make sense to folks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And then, yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time looking at how other organizations share research data such as this. And so if you come across some different ones that you think are well represented or well presented, we would love those ideas as well. So kind of keep a hold of those. Imitation, flattery, you know.
Way of communicating with you those ideas?
Yeah, you could just send them to me. That'd be great. So that's what I had for today, folks. Anybody have any other questions or thoughts at this point?
Thank you for everything you're doing, Julie.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Yep.
It's nice having you here.
Yep, definitely.
Good. Well, thank you to all of you for your generous use of your time today and your insights. I appreciate all this. I took notes. Jenny's going to send out all the notes next week. But in the meantime, I'll do some follow-up with several of you who came up with some ideas for us so that we can take them to the next step. And I appreciate all your time, and everybody have a wonderful holiday week.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.